Hi everybody, my name is Ken Lin, American-born, first generation Chinese American, and I said American twice, but cis male. And today I'm going to talk about my relationship with Chinatown and how it led me to form the notorious MSG. One of my earliest memories of Chinatown was being in first grade, getting called to the principal's office, and my parents are standing there. I'm freaking out, and I don't know what's going on. And suddenly my dad goes, he's like, 新年快乐! And I was like, holy shit, we're going to... can I curse? Pardon my Guangdong. They were there to take me to the Chinese New Year parade. And that was, for me, like, they were going to pull me out of school for it. So for me, that was the first indication of like, wow, my culture is a little special, right? So like an hour later, we were on the streets of Chinatown. It's like boom, 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 tap, boom, boom, you know. And like I'm as a kid, you know, I'm just spazzing out really hard, like, and you know, this was at a time also where there were fireworks were legal, so they were throwing fire. There was fireworks exploding around you, like literally, like feet from you. And so there's a part of me that was really happy to be there, and there's a part of me that had to like change my underwear at the end of the day. It was happy and terrifying, right? And there was a big kung fu store on Canal. Some of you might remember it was called Baklai Tat, and it had Bruce Lee fighting Chuck Norris out there. I used to buy a lot of ninja stars, and like because I wanted to be a ninja, like as a profession when I was you know, like 10. So yeah, that was just the beginning of a long, you know, a lifetime of visits to Chinatown. And okay, let's go to this wholesome child here. This is me at 19, and as a person of color, you know, you don't quite fit in. At least I didn't feel like I fit in. You can see the terror in my eyes, and if you look carefully, you can see it. And so, you know, I didn't quite feel at home in like the white patriarchy, and at the same time, I didn't quite identify as an immigrant because I wasn't. So, you know, I was made fun of, I was picked on, I was made to feel like, you know, inadequate, emasculated, all this stuff. I probably don't need to tell anybody here about, you know, how it feels. And then find myself working at a restaurant, having to somewhat like perform my ethnicity to a certain extent, which was a little strange. And I'm trying to just make sense of it in my head. As a result, though, it just ended up making me kind of like an angry little dude, right? So let's move on to the next. Let's jump forward to 2002, okay? Here we are. 2002, I formed the Notorious MSG, which was a band, right? So it's a band, but for me it was a project, right? It began in 2002, and these were a trio of renegade restaurant workers that just wanted to burn the shit down, right? They were pissed off as I was. For me, this represented like all the stereotypes, all the names I was called, all the times I felt like less than welcome. It was all sort of wrapped up in one end. For me, like subverted, and I was trying to weaponize it to a certain extent. If that, you know, I probably could have chosen a less polarizing, you know, representative, like a way to do it. But for me, this is what made sense creatively. And that's me in the middle. Flip forward. Okay, yeah. There was always a like undercurrent, even though we were funny on one side, on one hand, you know. On the other hand, there was always an undercurrent of anger, defiance, and resistance in the work, you know. And I made sure that they both balanced each other out because I don't feel like creatively I think that if you can have one, you should hit them with the other while they're not looking. So. That combination was very important to me. So next, please. Yeah, while they worked in the kitchens at night, while they worked in the kitchens during the day, at night, they kind of turned into something else. They went out and they ran shit, right? For me, this represented, more importantly, these characters. It represented freedom, and you know how we all get caught up in having to define ourselves by our day jobs and like, oh shit, I have to do this for work, and you get caught up in it. This represented freedom for me, like emancipation from the limitations that society puts on, you know, immigrants in general, like where, like especially working class. I wanted to free them of that, and also more importantly, they did not want to leave Chinatown, which was always something that was always in the narrative. These characters always stayed in Chinatown. They didn't want to move to L.A. and make it big in Hollywood. Well, it's because New York is better anyway. But they wanted to stay in Chinatown, represent Chinatown, be that, and that was it, right? Next, please. And live, we did live shows, right? So, like I said before, where we wanted this. I wanted this project to be sort of like a Trojan horse, where the outside was kind of funny and benign and goofy, but it was only to distract people from like the uppercut they didn't see coming. And live is where I feel like we delivered that effectively, because we had a full band and we were like a real band, So it was like 100% all the way on all fronts. So yeah, that's at Brooklyn Bowl. Next, please. And here's us at. This was a really for me. It was rewarding. It was last year at MoMA PS1, where we did a show with Sao Fei, who is a Chinese artist, video installations. And for me, this was so important, like just I guess personally, because it was a time where I felt like accepted and I felt understood, and not only culturally but also just creatively as well. And I think that's something that a lot of us strive for, right? We want to be heard. So this is nice. Let's do the last one. All right, this last shot. This one's taken by the legendary Corky Lee. The Cork Man took this one at Red Egg, and I don't know. For me, it's Chinatown has been such a reservoir for me, like personally, because by doing this project, it was something I didn't foresee, but it allowed me to get in more touch with myself in ways I didn't expect, and also made me realize that Chinatown was a real reservoir of identity and safety, security, and not only for me but my parents as well. My parents would always come here, so it's the struggle to preserve Chinatown, I think, is a shared one between the immigrant community and the American-born community, and I feel like we need to work together on preserving Chinatown for future generations, so they can learn and grow just like I have. Thanks, May, for having everybody here. It's things like this that keep Chinatown alive. Chinatown now for sale. Thank you.
I don't remember necessarily, but I remember doing that.
Yeah. I was wondering, one, how was it like to perform in front of Chinatown youth, at that point in time? But two, what was your favorite song? Because I remember My Dim Sum Girl in particular, and there was another angrier one, but My Dim Sum Girl is the one that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. I didn't want this to be about my band. I want this to be okay, what was the first one? Performing in front of Chinatown youth, right?
How was it singing in front of Chinatown youth when you were trying to do the uppercut of being angry, but also
Well, I felt like there's a shared connection in the sense that I felt they understood what we were going for, because I am pretty emotionally stunted, as you can see by my project. So I identified a lot with the youth. There's a big part of me that doesn't feel that still feels like that 17-year-old, the 19-year-old in that picture, and I haven't really changed much, and so I really know what it's like, and I feel like that's a lot of that I do put into the band, and performing for them, I felt like, if anything, I would feel like they would understand me more than people that are so maybe Chinese Americans who are more set on assimilating and diluting certain parts of themselves, which is why the characters never wanted to leave Chinatown. That was always a metaphor for being proud of who your culture. So and my favorite song, I don't know, I like Dim Sum Girl. That was good. Yeah. We have a new song called Wanton Violence, which is you should check out. But thank you.